Hi, everybody.
You never know. You might say
Yeah.
something great. But yeah, no, I saw you putting up all your recording stuff. I was like, oh, this is great, man. I really like the microphone kind of hanging in space in the backyard. That was super. I assume it's a backyard. Could be the front yard. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the backyard. Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, I on TikTok and things like that use so many videos. So I'll store things into my TikTok and save ideas. And I saw somebody do something like similar like that, having a mic hanging down, and I was like, you gotta try that up at the lake. So yeah, I've been having fun trying to mess around with lights outside and different scenarios. So
Oh, wicked, man.
keeping busy. That's the thing, right? I'm releasing music every 2 weeks now. So I caught myself going, wow, I really lined myself up for a lot of work because I got to make videos to put in between those 2 weeks, trying to release something every day, every 2 days, a video.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to take these 2 weeks to cram as many videos in as I can so I could front load everything.
that's it. You want to have that bank, right? You want to have
Yeah,
that bank of
exactly.
videos ready to rock. No, I'm with it. I'm with it. And yeah, how do you organize yourself with that? Like,
I don't.
there you
I don't.
go. I struggle with
It's
that too. I'm like, I'm an artist.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm pretty organized, I would say, but I always end up getting caught up. Like, I think maybe once I was ahead of the game. I had videos ready 2 weeks before a song was coming out. That's only happened once.
Okay.
Most of the time, I'm kind of chasing it. But this week, I knew Truth was coming out today, so all of last week focused on making videos for Truth that I'm editing today and this week, and just start dropping short form videos for the next 2 weeks. And now I'm already kind of getting ahead. Next on the 23rd, I'm dropping Hold On, and so on and so forth. So I already have some videos prepped for that.
Okay. So then I might as well just get on it. So the album is The Freedom of Loneliness, which
Yeah.
is the title track on the album. And it seems to me, and okay, so I'm just going to take a quick look at this. So you decided Truth, then Hold On. So how are you choosing the
Um,
combination of like what the release dates, times, and to like right now, as this comes out, Truth is out. Yeah, Truth should be
yeah.
out. I'm going to put this out as fast as is possible, actually, just in the next few days, so that it's clear that people can
Sweet.
go and check this stuff out and everything like that. So, but
Sweet.
tell people, of course, where they can like check it out and what's a good place, and then tell me why. Why, when, what, where, and how all of this came
Yeah.
together, and why we're doing Truth last track first.
So, I mean, everything is available on my Spotify. That's kind of where I send everybody. Apple Music as well, Amazon Music, if we know anybody that
Is into that,
goes on
yeah.
Amazon Music. I don't know. But Spotify is usually the place to go because that's the place that has the most like stats, and it helps with streams and everything. So Spotify is the way to go.
Okay,
My YouTube channel, Dax Henry, has the videos and all my short form stuff, and obviously TikTok and IG and all those things.
cool.
Um,
I'll put all
and
the links in the bottom.
Thanks. Awesome. And I mean, there's no real order except for when I was mixing the album and having it mastered. I asked a lot of my friends and the people who were mastering it and mixing with me what they thought would be the best singles. And Truth, Hold On, and The Freedom of Loneliness were always the top three.
Hmm,
Truth being the first one all the time. Everybody said that's your first single.
that's the
Uh,
one.
yeah. So I went with that. And then Truth, no pun intended. The order is coming out as videos come. Whatever inspires me to make a video, or if I find a location that I think, oh, this will be good for this song, and then I'll decide which ones to come out next.
Nice.
Because the idea is I'll release a single every 2 weeks, maybe every week if I get advanced on my videos. But at the end of it, when everything's out, I'll put them all out on a full playlist album that's titled The Freedom of Loneliness.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, then look, here's what I did. Because I was like, Dax is legit. Dax is serious. This dude, like, I know you are a person who's like, okay, this is a detail I care about. Like when you engineer your songs, I can tell you care about every sound that's in there. And just like, I remember from our last conversation, you were like, I'm worried that they're going to tell me this is garbage, and it's like, it's really not. But like, so I know that you kind of feel that way. So I was like, I'm going I'm gonna put the extra effort into listening to these tracks a bunch of times, picking out some of the lyrics. Because I'm a writer. I'm a person who's into lyrics. I'm a guy who remembers like all the lyrics of like all the songs I've ever heard, kind of thing. So it's like I'm just gonna grab the lyrics that jump out at me first when I
All right.
listen to these. And since Truth is coming out first, I'm gonna ask you about Truth. So first of all, I could see why people jump on this one. I feel like it's a bit of a departure from the other songs,
Yeah.
a little bit. Acoustic guitar at the beginning, sounds of seagulls, sounds of nature, and it's like I say. So let me just get into the lyrics then, because I'm losing what I want to say about it. But it's like you talk about being lost in her arms. Like this is a song talking about nature. You talk
Yeah.
about being lost in her arms, and also, don't you wish for sunny days on gray ones? That kind of situation. There's a whole vibe there. Tell me a little bit about the song. Tell me a bit about these lyrics. What is
Yeah.
being
Well,
lost in her arms? Why do you ask the question about being, mentioning, hey, don't you wish for this? Don't you wish for that? When things aren't going well, don't you wish for better things? Tell me about what you
yeah.
were thinking.
It's funny. It's great that I'm up here doing it because that song was created here. Um, and it came to me sitting out on the lake on the kayak. It was 2022, all kinds of crazy stuff happening, COVID, all these things, and it hit me like an epiphany out on the water that the only thing that I actually believe as truth and things that I actually trust in life is nature. Out of all the things that we keep getting fed and hearing and all the chaos that was going on, I could finally just breathe calmly and feel safe in nature. And I've always felt that way because I grew up around here. So I've always been somebody who's always been around nature. And it just kind of hit me that how that's the only thing that I actually really trust and understand. And then the lyrics just kind of flew from there. Just, sunny days on gray ones. It's kind of that contrast of appreciating what you have when you have it, not only when it's tough to be like, oh, I wish I was back there. So it's just take every moment. It's kind of just a reminder to myself to just appreciate nature and what's actually true and what actually matters while we can.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I guess there is the part where you talk about how nature could cancel us all
Yeah, yeah,
anytime.
that whole thing where it's somebody had said, I think one of my tattoo artists back in the day having conversation, we're talking about just life in general, and he was just like, I love how people say like we're gonna cause the world to end. He's like, the world, we're not gonna do, like, the world will end us before we do anything to the world. And it's like that kind of thought process
Yeah.
that if anything could get canceled, it'll be us.
That's what I was thinking about. Because I mean, it's like, yes, that weren't there dinosaurs for like 100 million years, and haven't there been something like at least verifiable, something in the realm of 5 major earth-shattering extinction events? Like
Yeah,
there was like
yeah,
the Permian extinction like 350 million years ago or something like that, where like 98% of everything that was alive in the ocean and on land gone. Like the earth is
yeah,
a different thing. It's like it's been around for billions of years, and it's like, oh yeah, a couple 100 million, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'll wipe these ones out and let's get
Yeah,
something new. I'm
exactly.
getting bored.
We're still very, very new.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess.
but that truth was very much kind of, I mean, most of my songs, if I'm being very honest, are kind of messages to myself, kind of self therapy, if you will. So it was just a reminder at that time to very much to just focus on what is real and actually something that I could believe that, when you think about it, nature, Mother Earth, all of that, whatever you want to call it doesn't listen to anything. There's no rules. You can't lie to it, change anything, the false information, none of that matters when it comes to just nature. And I guess I seek comfort in that, in the chaos that is what we're living in these days.
Makes a lot of sense. I got that impression too. A thing that I wrote was I said this album feels like a private journal entries almost turned into music that you shared with everybody.
Yeah, trust me. I mean, because it was written end of 2022. So now, coming to the tail end, it's almost a year old. I catch myself listening to it sometimes going, man, I really opened up on this one, and having like a bit of a anxiety putting certain things out, but
uh,
that's what it is, you know?
because it's semi sort of personal. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'll say this too, like the freedom of loneliness. Definitely, it sounds like this is an experience that you had, of course. I liked I really like the intro, and I wanted to ask you what that comes from, because there's an intro that says like, when nobody wakes you up in the morning and nobody's there waiting for you at night, what do you call that? Freedom or loneliness?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how does that intro come about,
Um,
and what's the thought process there?
that intro, I gotta find is a guy named Rob who's on TikTok. Just total random, one of this kind of meme sort of thing. It was just a video of I think a guy walking into the beach, and he was that whole quote or was in there, and I reached out to him saying, hey, like, you mind if I use that? And he was, yeah. He said it was something his father used to tell him, and he had just recorded it and went through some breakup and recorded that, and was like, yeah, go ahead, use it. So it just fit perfectly with the message of that song. And I remember hearing it the first time, and it really, had an impact on me, that whole concept of, and I direct it very much to music and art sometimes, where I'm like, is this who I am, or is it just something I do to keep like the voices in my head out, and that kind of thing,
That's a big lyric
deciding.
too in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I would think out of all the things, that's the one I struggle with the most. Is, I do music because I love it, I do art because I love it, but then sometimes you get lost into the numbers, and, oh, I need to do more. Why is this? Why is that? And you forget that. You ask yourself that question, like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending all this time? And then, things happen that you remember why, and you're like, yeah, this is why I do it. But
That's it. It's your thing. I feel that way also. Like, I'm in recent times I've been doing like acting, on camera acting lessons, just because
nice.
I find myself taking the scripts, breaking them down, doing everything, and I'm like, why am I doing all this work? It's not even for, it's just so like I want to be good on camera was the
Right.
goal, but ultimately it's like, no, I get really into it. And a lesson that I learned when I was doing this class, so what was, I'm like, I want to jump after the emotional stuff, because that's what seems to be tough. You get like being in front of weird strangers or
Of
whatever,
course,
and
getting
then
out of
you
your head.
getting out of my head and just being like doing the emotional thing. And so I went to do it, and it went well. But when I talked to the teacher, they were like, okay, so here's what you want to do maybe on the next take is just, we're going to talk about what's the objective here, what's happening here in this scene, what are you doing, what do you want that other person to feel, what are you doing here, like as if you're talking to somebody in real life
Yeah.
basically. And I did that. It was just a 10 times better thing. And when we talked afterward, it was, okay, so your objective might have shifted to wanting to be emotional, or you're chasing the specific emotion, and you
Right.
maybe weren't doing the actual objective. So I feel like maybe that's synonymous with what you were saying about the numbers. It's like you're going, oh, I want people to see this, and that's what I want. But what you really wanted was to make your art and put it out and share
Yeah.
it. And of course the numbers
100%.
are important, because then those things can't
100%.
come
It's,
together.
you just, every now and then you forget that. You forget the actual passion because you're focusing on, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. But at the end of the day, if nobody was listening, nobody was watching, I would still do it because I love doing it.
You are still doing it too, and it kind of proves it at this point, like
Yeah.
if nobody was listening to it, but well, it's not nobody, and if a few people even listen to it, it's something. I think it's
Yeah.
meaningful.
100%.
And yeah, that song was okay. So yeah, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this particular lyric in Freedom of Loneliness. Was, can't stop looking for your face in the crowd, I still don't know who you are we miles apart, it's okay, so they say, can't find somebody until you find yourself, I
Mm.
won't hold my breath, I'm still on the shelf. What are we talking about? What's happening
I
there?
mean, yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that one, but
I put a big chunk because I was like, I like this whole chunk. I know
yeah,
it
yeah,
should be shorter, but I like this whole chunk.
yeah, a lot to unpack there. Well, I mean, that's the throwing in, trying to find that right person in your life, are just another face in the crowd. Are we close? Are we miles apart? Am I anywhere close to finding that person? And then the classic saying, you can't love anybody until you love yourself. And then me saying I'm still on the shelf is basically saying I'm still working on myself, still working on that part of me. In that time was a very big kind of transition period. You know, I was alone, COVID, there was a lot of self-reflection and learning. So that whole lyric kind of encompasses the trying that search to find the one, and at the same time realizing I need to, the one should be myself first, and
Yeah,
then things will come. Is
absolutely.
I think that's the whole gist of that whole phrase or that
Right.
whole song essentially.
Right, right, right. Okay. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff mixed in there, like self-reflection, relationships. I had just gotten out of a long distance relationship also before COVID, so a lot of that seeps into it, to everything on this record.
for sure. I feel like LAX is all about that to some degree, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
obviously that difficult. We talked about this a little bit in the last one, but that
yeah,
difficult long distance thing, the LAX, the best fucking worst place, right? Like that.
yeah,
I think I feel that. Like so, yeah. I could ask you about that one too, I guess, but I think I get the picture. No.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why I say sometimes I have a bit of anxiety to all these songs to put out, because when I listen back, I guess at the time I was just letting things go, venting, doing my self therapy, and now when I listen back to it, I'm, you know, being past those things and have gotten over and moved on certain things. I get a little shy, or I'm like, whew, I'm really putting it all out there on this one. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah, that's
go.
what you were saying. Like, because I could understand that. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty personal, and also you are past this relationship at this point. I know you went back to LA. You you
Yeah,
revamped your experience in LA. You got your tattoos. To just mark the end of that chapter that was really pretty painful. I guess like that ended up
yeah,
being pretty painful, and that's the line in the song is "Can't stop loving you." That's like the repeated
yeah.
chorus line in there. And like, why do you think people are get so connected that it hurts to be apart and then have to, you know, move past that, get over that? I'm sure a lot of people who are younger too, or haven't maybe gone through this. It's the first time they're going through a thing they were sure was gonna be the thing, a relationship that was gonna be the one, and then it didn't. But like you're putting this out. This is how you felt. It's the same pain as a lot of people are going through. Now it's
Yeah,
now
I
you're
mean,
past it. What would you say?
I I would say, I mean, my whole life I've thought this way. I'd rather, in certain respects, but I'd rather regret things that I've done rather than regret things that I didn't do. In the sense of, especially when it comes to relationships, man, like no matter how many times you may get hurt in a relationship, as soon as you feel or meet somebody else that gives you that feeling, at least I don't think back. Oh, in the back, I got hurt so many other times. Like, yeah, you kind of see red flags, but I just go in all in. You know,
All
it's
right.
it's that finding love or finding a person. It feels great. Go for it. I mean, I feel if we were always thinking about, well, last time this went bad, last time this thing went bad, we never get anywhere. And I learned a lot from all these things. I mean, I would say to be cautious when it comes to long distance relationships. Those are complicated in many ways. But again, if you meet the right person, you go for it, and you never know how things will end up. So prepare for the future, but live in the present and just enjoy. I guess that's my advice. If I would talk to a young person, or if I had a kid or somebody asked, "What do you do in relationships?" Be like, just be honest, man, and love as hard as you can, and if things go wrong, then just learn from that.
Learn from it, I guess. Process the pain somehow and
Yeah, yeah,
go
yeah,
on.
yeah. And most of the time, at least in my experience, when you look back at all the things that in the moment felt like they were the worst things ever, you get over them. And when you look back, you're like, okay, that wasn't the end of my world. I learned a lot from it, and you grow. Like, I used to have crazy anxiety when I was younger, where I just couldn't go into public places and feel comfortable. And I thought, in the moment, I thought that was going to be the end of it. Like, how am I going to get through this? And now when I look back at it, I almost appreciate that I went through it, because it taught me so many things and figured out how to get over things. And I wouldn't be the person I am if I didn't go through those things. So I think we learn the most through the hardest struggles we go through.
Yeah, I mean, it maybe it's cliche to say because that's what everybody says. Like, yeah, you learn from your mistakes, or like the hard times you learn a lot more from than the good time. But it is
Yeah.
actually there's a reason people say that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
happens like that.
100% true.
Something you said reminded me of the song "Old Jams," which is
Yeah.
on the album, which is an awesome song too. It's about falling in love too quickly. I think like
Yeah.
to some degree, and you say and just maybe not having that love returned, or being scared about having not having that love returned, or getting afraid of having that love returned. So like one of the things that you said was, I'm so bad. I'm so bad at love, I think is what it was like. And I'm so bad at I love yous.
Yeah.
That's the line. I'm so bad at I love yous. So let me say goodbye before you do.
Yeah.
So this feels like there's a whole psychological game going on here.
There is, but before I get into that, I have
Yeah.
to say, so
Sure.
that song lyrics were co-written. I wrote that, and with a colleague of mine, we wrote the lyrics together.
Ooh.
And so she had put those in together, so we kind of worked that stuff together. The idea was to have the one partner's point of view and then the other person's point of view. So I had the lyrics written up that way, so it's kind of split up in two personalities talking to each other, but at the end of the day it's all me. But yeah, just I'm so bad at I love yous. It's just one of those things where, kind of what we were just saying now, sometimes you get that fear of I don't know, so is it easier to just cut this now than to go into it and see? But again, that's why I'm so bad at those. I just always go in full on. I fall in love too soon.
Hey, well, good for you though.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's a way to do it. At
Yeah.
least you have an open heart, and it's like whatever. You'll get hurt, but you'll deal. So
Yeah. 100%.
that is kind of cool. Now the sweet part of the song, of course, remembering listening to old jams all through
Yeah.
the night.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's that again, personal stories, but that was an actual event that clearly happened, like just hanging out with somebody. And I think we all have those nights. If we don't, we should, is putting on those, like we were going through, like emo stuff from the 90s and old songs and just old things that oh yeah, great, it feels so good, have a good night listening to old jams. And that's kind of where that whole story and the relationship behind all of that, but the core concept of it is having one of those beautiful nights where you listen to all the old songs you used to listen to and you haven't heard in years, and you get those memories back. It's great.
Man, I love doing that. I always find out that I know the lyrics to some song that I forgot from the 90s that
Yeah.
didn't exist. And I'm like, okay, well, no, I listened to this song 2,000 times when I was 12 or something.
100%. Like, yeah, so much stuff. Old Papa Roach songs or something like that. You rip through all the time.
I saw Papa Roach at some point. And yeah,
oh, for sure.
When it's live and it cut my life into pieces, I was like, all right, this is so dope.
Yeah, and you forget sometimes these albums that, like you said, you listened to so much when you were in your young teenage years that really did something to you, and then when you hear it back, that emotion kind of comes back that you forgot about completely.
And I could say that the Freedom of Loneliness has some of that vibe, because it does switch from singing to rapping like in a heartbeat at one point. And I'm like, yeah, that reminds me, not necessarily of Papa Roach, but it reminds me of that vibe.
Yeah, the old like 90s, early 2000 like what was it called, metalcore style stuff.
Yeah, like
I mean, that's what I grew up on.
Rap
that's
rock, some people called it.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up on all that stuff, so anything I do, even if it's pop, there's always a hint of rock in it some way, somehow.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And okay, so we talked about Truth, we talked about Freedom of Loneliness. You said you were one of the next ones that's gonna come out is Hold On as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is smooth, sexy R&B song.
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah, it's kind of that it's really kind of I don't really have any songs in that genre, and that just came out of me getting some new equipment, some new toys, and playing with and finding some sounds and getting that vibe, and I just went with it. And right off the beat, it kind of had that sexy vibe. So I went on that vibe, and yeah, it's one of my favorites. I kind of, a song where you're kind of proud of it because like, oh, that doesn't sound like me, it doesn't sound like anything I've done, and it works and it's good. So I was stoked about that one. So I'm happy to release that one up next.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. It's actually easily one of my top 3 on the album, I would say.
Cool,
It might
cool,
be my favorite also. Just to
nice.
say, like that might be my favorite one because I put it on. I'm like, wow, this is smooth. Gives me a feel of maybe even like confessions from Usher back in the day, and like
Right?
most of
Yeah.
your songs aren't this way. So it is. I was like, huh, what's
Cool,
happening?
cool. Wow, cool. I'm glad you like it.
I mean, I'll just say like I'll ask you, I guess maybe about the chorus then. Is it's hold on. This is all you got to do is hold on. Like what are we talking about in this song? Like what was your inspiration there?
Yeah, that at the moment for that song, it was kind of, say all you got to do is hold on. It's just basically don't overthink things too much. And that's a theme that's going to keep coming back in a lot of those things, is just live in that moment and appreciate it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be too much. All you got to do is just hold on and enjoy that moment. That's kind of, it's that, like I said, it's sexy song scenario, and it's just like, just hold on, enjoy the moment, be in the present, don't overthink things too much.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was going with that whole concept. It's, some personal stuff seeping in there, but
I don't know.
it's,
This is definitely personal, man. Like for sure. I feel like again, this is like your journal, and you were like,
yeah,
all right, well, here's what happened to me.
yeah. And I mean, that's what it's always been. Like, if you listen back to my previous stuff, it's always very personal. But I think this album, I had, just happened to have gone through a lot of things, a pandemic. So just, there's a lot more going on in my life that came out.
Yeah. No, I mean that's commendable, man. When you can grab something that's real and that could anytime you grab something that's personal of your own and you put it out there for people, they can interpret it however they want.
Right.
They can look at you and be like, "Oh, this guy, whatever." Or, you know that you open yourself up to criticism, you open yourself up to whatever, and just saying like, "Oh, this is." It's like showing up, it's like showing up naked somewhere to some degree, except for not illegal, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's what it feels like, 100%. And I may have mentioned this the last time, but I don't ever, and I'm working on this now, I don't ever really plan what songs are going to be. The music's there, I kind of freestyle and I hear, feel out words, and then I put it together. So it's, again, like say, kind of very self therapeutic, because it just comes out and then I deal with those emotions as they come out. So it's almost as if the songs come out of me without any conscious effort, and then I'm like, okay, this is what I'm saying, and I have to deal with it. Like LAX, for example, I was trying as hard as possible to not write another song about a relationship, about that relationship. I was trying so hard not to, and that song just kept, it just, all the words kept, and one day I said, all right, you know what, this is what it wants to be, like I have no choice, and then it got done instantly.
Do you feel like writing anything? Because, like, again, I've written a song or two in my day, but not really to the level that you're doing it. But writing in general is a little that. I think things come out of nowhere. I don't do. This is a super stupid question, but it's what's coming up. So I'm gonna take your cue and do it. I'm not gonna say where do you get your ideas, but it almost is a cousin of where do you get your ideas. So that's why it's a dumb question. But where do you think? Like, do you believe in something like a muse, or or is it just your subconscious? Or because I'm relating very heavily to that, where it's like, yeah, well, when pen goes to paper, what comes is what comes, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be what it's gonna be. So I don't know
yeah.
what's your take on this whole artistic making something out of nothing or out of your own experiences or whatever thing
I mean,
that happens.
I really believe it's, at least for me and my experience, even working with others, it's very much a subconscious thing. It's things that, maybe you push down, or you are going through your head, or things that you haven't sorted out yet, that are finding their way out. And that's, for me, lyrically, when I'm making music, I could be more focused on kind of what sounds and vibe I want, but then when it comes to the lyrical content, it's just a subconscious flow of stuff that comes out, and then it halfway through it I'll be, oh, all right, we're talking about this, okay, and then I could kind of polish it, but most of the time I have no idea, and it's just a subconscious thing, and it's definitely things I'm going through, things I've experienced. And equally as important as that subconscious thing, I think it's the music. Whatever the music makes you feel like. If I'm playing a happy song in a major key, chances are I'm not going to be spitting out something that's sad. It's going to make me think of something that I'm happy, and I'll go that way. So the music definitely has influence on what the lyrics are going to be, but at least for me, it's definitely a subconscious, just let it out and go. Like I remember seeing an interview years ago with Alanis Morissette. Remember the Jagged Little Pill album,
I
like that
remember,
amazing record? I remember her describing it as if somebody was singing through her, like that she had no control of what the lyrics were. It was just coming out. And that happens to me more often than not. Like if, like LAX, the lyrics, I can't even tell you really thinking about them. I just spit them out and come out, and then after it's almost like I'm writing going, oh, this is cool, as if I'm picking it up somewhere else.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's usually how it goes. Like I said, I'm trying to get better at picking a topic, like let's write a story about this, and doing it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying, just because step out of my comfort zone and just try to, and that helps me with production too, with working with other people, just getting those ideas going.
Okay.
But yeah, just like practicing another muscle. Not that the other way is bad, but just trying new things. Because
Oh, that's
sometimes,
interesting.
yeah, because I'm still, this album was finished, like I said, the end of 2022. So I probably have another 25 half songs, ideas that I'm still working on going. So I'm trying new techniques, new things all the time to see what comes out of it.
No, that's wicked. No, I think that's true. You got to try everything that's possible in the art, and I think probably take whatever is working for you and do that.
Yeah, well,
So,
I find things get stagnant, and I think I am my best artist when I'm learning something new. When I'm doing something I'm not good at and there's no real pressure to be good at it, is when the better stuff happens. So that's why I'm always trying to learn a new instrument. Like I just bought an MPC, which is a completely new system of making music that I'm going to have to learn and figure out. And I have the best time when I'm doing those things. That's why I kind of try to throw wrenches in my process to
that
be
makes
learn new stuff. Yeah, because man, I struggle with that so much, where it's clearly I could write songs. I've been writing songs forever, but I'll get complacent with it because it's the same thing. And then I've learned over the years, if I throw something new in there, or something I need to learn, it's almost as though it takes the pressure away of being good at it. Or I'm like, I know I don't know how to do this, so I'm gonna suck. Let's go. And then I'm able to create. And then once I get good at that thing, I'm like, oh, here I'm back again. I need something else to go.
That's so real. Absolutely true. Absolutely true, man. That is really good advice. I hope people hear that too, because you just explained what has recently happened to me. So like, since this is an interview about you and your album, let me talk about myself.
Go for it.
No, is that again, the acting class thing, since it's a new thing that's happening with me. I wanted to hit some of these emotions and be like, oh, be emotional in front of people and do this kind of stuff. And I wasn't connecting with scenes. I was watching like some Denzel Washington scenes, and he's in the hospital with his kid and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's sad and everything, but do I connect with these scenes? And I was like, hey, Rick, wait, haven't you written screenplays and stuff? I'm like, why don't I, now that I'm learning this thing and I'm trying to do this thing, why don't I write a brand new scene from one of the things that I'm working on that's close to the end of the series, that would be some of the pivotal moments where the complicated emotions start to happen, and use that. And I was inspired, the long story short, I was inspired to write new scenes, create depth in these characters. And I actually feel like a person who's writing a screenplay, as the writer, you feel like you know everything about these characters, you know their backstory, you know all this. But from the actor's perspective, actually the writer doesn't know as much about these characters as he thinks he does, until I had to break them down and go, okay, what are they actually feeling, doing, what's happening inside every moment of this scene, every
Mhm.
word that they say, what are they saying that, and that suddenly takes you to a whole different place.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think what you're saying about this is absolutely true. Start learning something else that is adjacent to what you're doing, and
Right.
then suddenly you might come up with something new. And I didn't feel like I have to be a great actor, because it's like not what I do.
Right.
I'm doing the writing and I want to understand that better, so I'm over here. But yeah, no, it's like I could take a chance, and
Yeah.
I think it went okay.
And it takes a bit of the pressure off because you don't have the expectation of being this amazing actor. So you're just, I'm trying, we'll see how it goes. And then you yourself start getting impressed with every little notch that you get better and better. So I think that's an important part of, I mean, at least for me, that's why I always need to learn something or find a new musical plug-in, a new thing for sounds. Okay, how to get this, experiment, get things going to keep myself fresh.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay.
But that's cool though. Acting is, man, like you'd think I could go on stage, I could sing, I could perform, but acting, oh man, that's a tough one. Like that's it's like dancing. Like I feel like I'd be good at dancing if I could just get out of my head.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, a lot of people have told me that with a lot of things, but just any art form that requires you to really just drop the, oh my god, do I look ridiculous? What do I sound like? What do I move like? Is I find it incredibly tough to do. Like just get out of your head. I had a singing instructor once that it would sing, but she's like, okay, but you need to, like, what are the words you're saying? How do you feel? Like act out what you're saying. And I'm like, okay, when I'm on a stage, I can do it, but being in this room with you in front of me and trying to act this thing out, it was the hardest thing to do just because there's just that voice in my head going, you look ridiculous. This is ridiculous. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It's crazy.
I think I'm with you, man. And I think that's why part of the reason I want to do this too in the first place is because, like, it's like a gray wall. There's lights and cameras on you, and there's a line of people sitting in chairs, and you're going to
That's
sit there and do this thing. A lot of times for the first time, it's like you do a cold read where it's like, here's the script. Now do this in front of everybody and
wow.
get the picture. You're going to do it maybe 3 times and then it's done. And then come back the next week, you're going to do it 3 times again, and then something new after that,
That's good. That's good. Good for you, man. That's
but
like I think that's the hardest thing. It's like stand-up comics. I say all the time. Like you just gotta bomb. You gotta go places and bomb. And then
yeah,
you get better and you get better and you get better. You get better.
that was it. Honestly, almost every time, third take is the better take too. So you're going to do those first ones, feeling it out. But
Yeah, 100%.
there was actually some people who are singers who came to the class who were like, I want to be a little more free on stage, and yeah, connecting emotionally is the whole game. So
Yeah.
if you connect to your words in lyrics or you connect to your words in a script, it's not really that different, I think,
No.
to some
And
degree.
I've been there. Like I do it, I feel comfortable on the stage because that to me feels quote unquote real. Like I don't feel like I'm acting. I feel like I'm in the thing. I'm doing it. Um, but there's a moment, and I think every artist could feel that is when you actually are fully committed. That you feel you like even this past week, my girlfriend and I were filming a lot of content for these songs, and these are songs I've been singing, I've been listening to for a year now. And every now and then I would just get really into what I was doing to the point where I would feel emotion, where I'd be like, oh, I haven't felt this song until right now. I'm feeling it. I'm in it. And she'd look at me like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just like, it finally, it's clicking again. I could feel what I'm doing. It's just to get into that moment. So again, that's just shutting off all the other things going on in your head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is true. Committing to something and just saying, I'm doing this, that's what it is. And
Yeah.
a thing that I found helpful, this is maybe just an acting thing, I don't know, but a thing that helped me was the idea, because when I do stuff for that matter. So like every day I wake up and I've been reading the Stanislavski book, because that's like the basis of the kind of acting people do now.
Okay.
But it's from back in the early 1900s, kind of thing. But everything that's in there, any acting teacher is going to still tell you, but it's a bit, it's a bit said in a maybe vague way or whatever. Anyway, we're not talking about that. but I'll read these books and I'll take the stuff that's there. And one of the things I think I took from this book, the Actor Prepares Stanislavski book, is it's not necessarily like you said. The reason I'm thinking about this because you said on stage it's real. This is the real show, right?
Right.
But for acting, it's even if you're on stage, it's the real show. But the thing that's happening isn't necessarily real. That's happening. It's
Right.
never real. It's like
Right.
you're not an insane person like who finds a way to actually believe the murder really happened. Like you know it didn't. You know that, and if you don't know that, you've actually lost your mind. So it's as if you have to use the power of as if. Like, how would I truly act if this happened?
True. That's a good one. As
If
if.
this happened, what would I feel? And then allow yourself to feel it, and be like, okay, well, no, if somebody was killed there, I would probably feel shock and feelings of fear. And what would really happen? I probably wouldn't go, oh my goodness, like that's what
Right.
they used to do in theater. So he said, like, no, you wouldn't do that. What would you really do? And so use the if question as
I
much
like
as
that.
possible.
I
So
like that.
you don't have to believe, like, if ever you're trying to practice something and it's not real, you're with your vocal coach in a room, just be like, okay, well, if this was the thing, really, like, be willing to say, if this was really on stage right now, if I was trying to get this, if my life depended on this, what would I do? And maybe
Yeah.
you don't get all the way there, but it might help you to give up some of the feeling embarrassed or whatever.
I like
'Cause
that.
I think you would be great at lots of stuff. Hey, look, this is what I'm basing this on. Is one, the music's great, and two, on your social media, I saw you walking around with that chest tattoo outside in the middle of the, you're like feeling myself today, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of vibe going. I'm like,
Well,
no, this dude's got it.
that's the thing. I think a lot of us have tons of potential for whatever it is that we want, but it's just who has the strength and courage to get out of their own way and do the uncomfortable things and be bad at something and be embarrassed and just okay and go on. And I think that's everything that you want is past your fear. And I say that easily. I struggle with it a lot, but it's just part of life.
I think because you struggle with it, you probably know that that's true.
I know
Same for me.
100% that it's true. I know 100% that it's true. I see it for myself. I see it for other people. I see a lot of my friends who are very successful because they put themselves out there. Oh, sorry, my cat's just jumping up in the air.
Oh, that's great though. Yes, cat. Rock stars of the internet.
Yeah, right.
The absolute best. That's an acting thing too. By the way, it's be the cat.
Really?
It's an old phrase, be the cat. And it means if you have a kid or a cat, the audience is going to be like, what's that cat going to do? And like you have
Right.
the best actor in the world doing the greatest performance, but they're like, man, is that because of the unpredictable nature of the cat? You're like,
True.
is that cat going to just jump in the audience at some point? Like,
I love this. I'm taking notes. I got as if and be the cat.
yeah, be the cat. So it's like, yeah, be a little unpredictable. Be like, you know what? I could do anything. You're not inside that box that you think you're in. You could like go
100%.
crazy.
100%. Love it.
So yeah, be the cat. But anyway, why I'm wondering from what you were just saying, I'm wondering why do you think there's so much fear? This is a big question, I know, but like this is everyone struggling with like, I'm afraid to look silly. I'm afraid of this, that, and the other thing. What is all this nebulous fear that doesn't ever even really hurt you? Like, okay, well, I'll let you answer. I asked the question, then I keep asking the question.
I think it's, I believe, I'm pretty sure this is what it is. It's just everyone's ego. Depends how much you let your ego take control of you. None of us like being embarrassed. None of us like bombing on a stage or bombing on a set. But I think some people are just better at not letting it affect them. Some people go up on stage, have a bad performance, and it'll ruin them forever. Like, I'll never do that again. They're done. They feel horrible. And other people could go up and bomb and then go up the next day and do it again. And they don't let that affect their thought process of like, I'm horrible at this. I'm bad. I'm never going to be good. And I think it just depends on who you are and how you analyze these things. And I'm someone who has a bit of a hard time, I think, taking it with failure. Like, I don't mind failing if it affects me alone in certain things, but I guess I get embarrassed, or I feel, if I have a bad performance, I'm the type that might be like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. I need to practice. Oh, I suck. I suck. I suck. That bad internal voice. Um, but I think people who are very successful have a way of keeping that calm, where they just know, okay, that was bad, but that's just one bad performance that I'll go through until I get to the good ones. I saw Ed Sheeran documentary recently where it's a weird description, but he was described it as, if you turn on a tap in an old house and it's just brown, shitty water coming through. He's like, those were the first songs I wrote. But he's like, you have to write those and you have to let all that dirty water come through. And then eventually that water is clean. And that's what doing these shows or doing these acting classes where you're bad and you're not good. If you do one bad thing and you stop, you're not letting all the bad stuff come out. You got to just do all the bad stuff until you get good at it.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's the fail forward idea, right? Like,
exactly.
I've heard tons of people, I think it was Terry Crews or something like that, saying he needed massive amounts of failure because he wasn't an actor really. He was like a football player. And
right.
He decided he was going to be an actor. And he said, like, his wife was like, hey, he had a lot of bad experiences at first. And his wife was saying, so when do we know we call it quits? And he said, we are never leaving LA. He's like, that's how she's like, okay, I get it. It's like, I'm going to keep doing this. And if I'm 80 years old when I get my first big part, then I'll be 80 years old. But he's like, fail as often as possible because those failures are going to get you somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm dubious about some of that stuff too, because I guess I don't like failing that much, but
yeah, it's tough, man. Trust, it's tough. I'm the same way. I have that same mentality of like, I'm still doing this music thing, and I'm not obviously not the only one, but a lot of the people that I was, a lot of my peers that we were doing music all at the same time, a lot of not have fallen off, but I've taken it, or there's a hobby or a thing like that, and for some reason there's still something inside of me that's like, no, I'm going until I'm, like you said, 80 years old. I'm still going to do this. But there's still a part of me, I know I need to like put on my big boy pants and go do those things that make me uncomfortable, go play shows, go do things that I'm going to be bad at, and then just, okay, how do I do that? It's putting in reps. It's like the gym's putting in reps.
I'm with you, man. I like to hear that. Speaking of confidence, speaking of doing the song Feeling Myself.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right? That's confidence song. Everybody get up and get the fuck out of the way now.
Yeah, right.
Freedom takes some time. I'll be the richest man alive, right? So these are the two lines that I kind of grabbed from it because I just loved them. So yeah, it feels like fun, aggression, towards being yourself. I kind of like that. Like aggressively being yourself. And today's the day where I feel good. Like tell me some more.
And I think we all have that in it. Us, like, there's two people in me. There's the Dax that's confident, funny, like the life of the party, the office clown that everybody gets along with, where you're feeling good. And then there's the other side, which is the introspective, like, oh, I'm a bit nervous, I don't want to do this, I don't want to fail at that, overthink things. And clearly on that day it was the confident, happy one that was there writing that song. And again, like I said, a lot of these things are messages to myself. So like writing that is kind of just a reminder, like, hey, like, you got this, like, just keep going, get out of the way, keep doing your things. Yeah, I remember that day just being home. I had the beat, and I can't remember exactly what was the first line that came out of that song. But Feeling Myself, I think I saw it on like a movie, somebody saying like, yo, this guy's really feeling himself. And I was like, oh yeah, I get that. And I rolled off that, but it felt really good writing that one. Like, I remember finishing and going, it feels cool. Like, it was a nice sunny day at home. But yeah, that was just the positive side of just having that confidence. And like I said, it's these 50-50s. There's those days where you're like, man, is this going anywhere? And then there's other days where you just feel unstoppable. Like, no, just go. Like, this is rocking. You're doing good. Just keep it up. Keep going. Every step is another rep. So that song, yeah, was kind of a little bit of satire, like I have the auto tune on to the max and I'm just like, let's go, let's do this thing. But it's fun and it's true, man. Like I said, that line you just said, give me freedom, sex, and time. At the end of the day, it's truth. Like I don't, money's great. Everybody wants to be wealthy and successful, but for me, money is not the money owning things. It's the freedom. That's like, it's just that I can't put a price tag. Whatever I could make that makes me not have to work a job I don't like, just make music, be myself, do whatever. Freedom is for me what I would call myself rich, when I could say I'm free to do what and whenever I want.
That's actually the whole point of it. I think that's choices. It's a thing of from a book that I read some time ago talking about leveraging time, where they compared two people. Like, okay, this guy's a high-powered executive, and he makes $2 million a year, right? So it's like, okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. But his job is high-powered to the level that it's almost a 24/7 thing. Like somebody might call him at 2 a.m. He can't really go on vacations. He works till like 10 at night every night. Then there's a woman over here. She's making 300,000 a year. That's still not a small amount, right? It's a good amount, but hers is from a online business or something in that realm. She's leveraging when she's asleep. It's still working, and she takes herself out as a bottleneck. So, whatever service needs to be done, it gets done without her, and she can do this from anywhere in the world. So, who's richer? She leverages her $300,000 to do all the things she wants to do in life. The guy with the 2 million has the money, but it almost sits there because he really can't do any of the things he wants. So I think it's what I thought of when you mentioned that paradigm of choice and freedom. If you don't have any of those things, I think that's why a lot of us, we say we want to be rich and wealthy. Well, it's because it's what buys those choices.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Obviously we need the money to be able to do that. And I mean, it depends what your lifestyle is too. Like I said, I don't even know what the price tag, like where I am right now. If I had some sort of business or music, I could be making 50K a year. As long as I could put food and pay the electricity here, and I have somebody that I love and time, I would be like, I'm rich. I'm rich. So it's 3 million, 100,000. It wouldn't really make a difference to me as long as I have that freedom to do the things I love. That's what being rich is to me.
I'm with you. I think that makes a lot of sense to me too. I haven't really ever thought about a specific number,
right?
Because
I think a lot of us think when you say specific number, you're just like, what is the number I need so that I could stop doing this thing that I don't necessarily love to do? That's the only time I think of a number. Like, is 1 million enough? Is 2 million enough to not ever have to work in my life? Like, what is it?
Well, there's a thing called a TMI. It's your total monthly income, and you can kind of work that out. Like, okay, for the things I actually want to do and really want to do, not just nonsense that you maybe dream about or whatever, or just that, like, I want to own $100 million yacht. Like, do you want to own $100 million yacht? Like, you might not want to. You could rent that yacht once a year. How many times are you going to use it? This is the thing. Do you live on the yacht? Like, now it's another story. So you start asking questions about those things, and you can get down, I think, to a point of, my total monthly income needs to be this. Now, what can I set up that gets me that? And then I get to, do the life that I want to do, which is your time is, we all know this, it's cliches, but you can't buy the time back,
No, you can't. Yeah. And that's 100% why and it's a tough game too, because there's a lot of side hustles, there's a lot of things you could do for money, but at the same time, like you and I are probably in the same boat. Like I have a day job that I do right now, and I have music and the videos and all that stuff. And the goal is for the music and the creativity to eventually bring in enough money to sustain that. And there are a lot of side hustles you could do to make, start a web business. But at the same time, as an artist, I don't want to sacrifice this little time I do have to do the art that I like, to say like, well, let's open like an Amazon thing to make money. And then in 5 years, then I'll have time to get back to that. I'm just like,
I'm the same as you. It bores the hell out of me. So I don't want to do it. And I'm like, oh, that's what I'd be now spending my time on a second job I don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
I can't complain too much, to be honest. Although, like today, my voice is a little bit tired. I was doing a narrating an educational, like, online course of some sort, and it's like 500 pages. I have 22 pages left to do, I tried to get as many. I was like, I want to be done this before I talk to Dax so that it's not in my head at all. But I couldn't
Nice.
get there. I have 22 pages of the 500 left, so I'm
I
going
was
to
gonna
finish
say
it
that's
today.
it's cool that you do that because I was gonna say you have a good voice for like narrating stuff, for doing voiceovers and stuff.
Thanks, man.
Cool. It's cool.
But that's the story with that. So no, I feel what you're saying, but I think about it all the time, and I'm like, man, I still wish I would have invested in everything that I thought was cool when it was 1999.
That's
Like, it'd be fun to invest in
let's not,
Google, and I was like,
yeah.
didn't do it because I'm like, that seems hard. Weed is cool.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can't look back because
No.
then it just goes forever. But I agree with you. I have those moments too where I was like, oh, why didn't I do this when I was in school? Why didn't I do this when I was in my 20s? I mean, it is what it is.
We didn't. That's what it is.
Yeah,
but I do try to learn the lesson. Like you said, if we make mistakes, we learn the lesson. I think about this. We do talk about hard work a lot, and I do kind of wonder. I'm like, working. I love to work hard on things I love. I love to go
because it doesn't feel like hard work.
Doesn't feel like hard work. But on the other end of it, I think about anything that would have made me the maximum amount of money. Like if we're talking about let's make millions or even billions, it was not a hard work thing. It was invest in Google at the beginning, or invest in Bitcoin and then sell it when it was at 60,000. Invest in Bitcoin when it was at 0.001 cents. And then when it was 65,000, be a billionaire because you put $100 into it, you know? Like,
right. Well, that's another.
Like, so maybe there are tricks to the game, you know?
There 100% are. It just, I'm not I'm not knowledgeable in knowing those things. And I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I talk about this a lot with people. Is I feel we should have been taught these things when we were kids. Like everything that I learned in school, I mean, obviously I used some of it, but none of the math that I learned, none of the things that I spent hours studying and learning for a test do I use in my life. Like as a kid, they should have taught us how does investing work? How does paying your taxes? How does saving up for retirement? These are all practical things we should have learned as a kid that we don't. And then you have to learn as you go. But I know a lot of people now that are in their 20s that because of the internet and how things change, entrepreneurship is such a big thing now that there's kids in their 20s that, oh, I'm starting a business. I have people at 26 years old, they have 3 businesses driving Teslas because they started and invested in something because they understand it. Or I'm like, I don't even understand this stuff. I don't know how to invest, where to invest. So, I mean, can't regret, but that's the advice I give if young people ask me, like, what do you do for music? I'm like, learn how to invest, learn how to do things so that when you're my age, money's just coming in.
I have that feeling that it does relate a little bit to what we were talking about of fear. Like you're saying, why did we not learn these things? I mean, they're not to get too much. Like I'm somewhat of a paranoid person, I guess you could say. So I think about this sort of stuff. Like, what did I really? When I was a kid in school, I remember asking the teachers. So let's say I come in here and the test you're going to give us at the end of this, I come in here and do that test and I get 95%. Am I done? Am I good? Like, are we good? Because this is about learning stuff, right? And he's like, no, you got to do all the homework. I was like, but what if I don't want to do the homework and I want to just ace the test? That proves I know what you're saying you want me to learn. And then they were like, no, you got to do the homework though. And I even talked to the principal about that. I'm like, he's like, well, yeah, if you have straight A's for like a certain amount of time, we'll let you at the end of the year, like maybe skip the last one or something like that. And it's like, okay, so if I do everything the way you want me to do it, then I can skip it. I'm like, well, I've already done everything the way you want me to do it, so I don't get to skip anything really. So like, this is the kind of person that I am. So I'm like, what are you teaching me to do? Sit here, be quiet, ask to go to the bathroom, be a cog in the machine, maybe?
That's what it is. That's what it is. The school system. I mean, that's why I said I don't want to get into the rabbit hole. But
yeah, no, I know. I was like, Dax, come.
The old school system is just training people to be employees, essentially. To do the work, take your lunch when you're supposed to. Here's your recess break. Here's you go. It's like training for that 8-hour workday. Whereas I really feel kids, we could have learned a lot more of just like practical things that you need to learn in life. But I mean, we're a different generation. Like
Yeah.
when I was in school, the entrepreneur was not a word that you really heard when you're at the guidance counselor. What do you want to do? Like nobody was saying, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They'd be like, ooh, you should look at this list of things. What do you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to do?
Okay, policeman, fireman,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
construction worker. What are you talking about? Office guy.
Yeah. So it definitely wasn't a thing that was pushed on us when we were in school. But
No, it's different now. I know, but at the same time, I did feel that way. So I understand what you're saying. But and yeah, and I don't think it works for everybody either. What you're trying to do, what I'm trying to do, and what some of these young kids try to do. Like I said, if you're a cog in the machine, like you can't take all the cogs out of the machine, or else there's no machine, and we have to
right,
come up with a new thing altogether, I
right,
guess. And for
right.
some people, it's like, yeah, can I just please have a job where I go to the office and enjoy working
That's
there?
yeah, that works for a lot of people. A lot of people, and it's not. I'm not saying in any way that that's a bad thing. I'm not at all. I enjoy. I have jobs that I enjoy. I've had day jobs that I love, and I've learned a lot of things from all the jobs that I've had. But I think there's just some people. Maybe you could relate to this. There's just always been, no matter what the job is, even a job that I love, that was a great job, there's just always been a voice in the back of my head that's just like, you're not meant to be doing this. You're not meant to be sitting at a thing. Because ironically, it's funny, when it comes to these day jobs, I'm so much better at doing the thing that I need to do at my day job than music, because I'm spending 40 hours a week doing it. And and I'm maybe spending 10 to 20 if I'm lucky on music. Divide that between music, make videos, do this, sing. Where this job, whatever it is that I'm doing 40 hours a week. So I'm like, man, I'm getting real good at this thing, but I'd rather be getting good at the other things,
Yeah,
you know?
dude, I
So I've
feel
always
that.
had that, yeah, that voice. It's like, this is not right. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, I understand that for sure. And on that note, talking about
Yeah, I don't know how we got
jobs,
on this tangent.
day jobs. No, no, no. Tangents the way this is about. This is what I think this is what this kind of conversation is. Though, like anytime I try to, like, this is another thing talking about art. Anytime I try to like force a theme or something, it's good to have it. Like, hey, I have all the lyrics here I want to talk about. We don't have to talk about all of them. We could talk about down with the school system as much as we want,
Right, right.
because
I
that ends
love it.
up being somehow better because it's
Yeah,
natural. Like, be the cat, right?
yeah. Be the cat. Be the cat.
So it's totally okay. You go off on whatever tangents you want, and then we get to know you for real, and I get to know you for real. And it's. I think anybody watching anything, listening anything, it's what they're looking for. But speaking of being cogs in the machine, I'm left turning. I'm segueing this thing like a son of a bitch right now.
Go for it.
Faded.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like to some degree we could say that
Yep.
feeling like this is about escaping. This feels like also intro on Faded. I think it's ethereal, absolutely beautiful. I love the way
Awesome.
that song starts. I remember being a bit transported when I heard the intro on that. So just wanted
Nice.
to tell you.
Cool, man. I'm glad you like it. Yeah,
But
yeah.
has some serious themes, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of what we're talking about, right? The getting faded just to be able to kind of get through those those thoughts, those things. You work your whole week to get to that weekend where you just gotta forget. Not saying that that's the right thing to do. Just get blasted and get your weekend off. I've gotten much better at that, but yeah. No real idea where that started from, but I do remember being up here and coming up with those parts and everything, and then it just, something about it gave me that vibe, like faded. We're getting faded, and I was like, okay, I get what we're talking about here. Kind of that life struggle. I'm not depressed. I'm not this. I'm just kind of stuck in this thing, and I need to, whatever it takes to kind of just get my brain off of it. It's funny. I should have had my own lyrics. I'm like, you're singing. Oh, yeah, it's
No, I
true.
mean it is what it is. But yeah, one of the things I guess the lyric in that one that I picked up on, which I think you've already kind of said what it's about, but like, was no thoughts of suicide, just a social DSI, reminding me I'm burning back the clock, stress killing my life, like living under the knife, and for some reason I can't quite get it right,
Yeah.
That's
Well,
like,
that's
that seems really, yeah, intense.
yeah. Well, it's that. I mean, everything you just said there, I would say, is how I feel most of us, or at least I feel after a bad day at work. We're just like, oh my god, man, like, why can't I get this right? Like I'm doing this thing, it's like a struggle, and you're just like, I need, babe, bring me my drink. Like, you know, it's having one of those days. And that, I think that's kind of where I was trying to get to from that relate to people where it's like, man, this is tough. Like I'm not necessarily happy in this thing. This is tough. What do we do? And it's like, we're gonna go to the bar on that Friday night and we're gonna have a good time and just forget about the stress and the days and like just be in this moment.
Man,
That's
yeah.
kind of where it goes through. But yeah, I kind of went a bit deep on that one. But it's just that 9 to 5 struggle and just trying to get out of it as best you can. Again, like I said, it's not necessarily anything in particular of a job that I hate or anything like that. It's just that that regular grind, like you said, being that piece in that cog and going. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah. I think for people who are artists, it's hard. Just straight up, it's hard. Because you're
Yeah,
like, you know that, like you said, there's a little voice in the back of your head that's saying, all day should be devoted to this other thing. And you know you were born for that. And because of whatever reasons, things happened. You went in this direction, that direction, choices, locations, whatever. It
yeah.
made it made things be the way they are now. And it's something, there's some degree that you need to adjust. And I guess that constant feeling could be it can be real anxiety inducing.
Oh no, for sure. Like a lot of my anxiety is, I would say, is probably, and it's all these things too. I'd rather be. It's funny how anxiety and stress has different layers when it, depending on what the situation is. Like music stress, like, oh my god, this song's coming out this week. I gotta make videos. I gotta do this. It's stressful, but it's not stress that I'm feeling it in my back and in my bones. But yet, a job where at the end of the day, it's a job you're doing for a paycheck. It's not necessarily a passion. Something like that could stress me where I'm like losing sleep, my back hurts. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, so it depends, you know, there's good stress and bad stress. Like art stress and deadlines for that to me is good stress because it's something I'm passionate about. So it's finding that balance of what are we letting affect our life,
Yeah.
you know?
I, I don't know if I should say the thing I thought of. I was like, well, it's kind of like the difference between like sex with the person you want to be with or just like a prostitute, I guess, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
like, they're not interested in this. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it's
Well,
what
no,
I
but I get
thought
it.
of.
You know,
It's what
yeah,
I
you
got,
know,
Dax. Okay, it's what I got.
yeah. One of them you feel all right after, and the other one you feel real shitty after.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, kind of thing, I
Mhm.
guess. Although that I've never had that experience, so maybe I've never been a prostitutes guy. So,
I've never been a prostitute. Where I get,
not yet, not
not
yet.
yet.
We're
Yeah, that's
close.
always, that's the, like the last, at the end of the day, worst case scenario, I could always be a
We're
prostitute.
hanging on by a thread. We're hanging on by a thread. That's the last one. It's
That's
the
it.
last vestige of my my what dignity.
That's it.
Okay, you know what, man? I know you're probably getting close to. You're probably getting tired of this.
No,
So,
no, not at all, man. I'm
oh yeah,
I'm off for another. I'm up here for 2 more weeks. I'm
oh yeah.
off completely uh for 10 days. Like I'm not working. I was up here this week, but I still work during the day. But from as of yesterday, I'm on vacation for
Oh
another
yeah.
full week. Got a lot of music videos. I'm working on music with other artists, like helping production and things like that. So I got a lot of stuff to do, man. I'm actually, it's the first time I'm on vacation where I have a little bit, again, this is where I say good anxiety, where I have a little bit of stress of like, oh my God, I came up here with so many things to do. Where usually I come up here and just things happen and I have no plan. And this year I came up with like, okay, I got to make this many videos. I got to work on this song. I got to do this. So I'm like, all right. But I like that. I like kind of having days off. And I still, today I was up at 6, get up, do the morning routine, do some exercise. I could plan out my day as if this is my job, which I love doing, you know? So
That's the way.
I have,
That's
yeah,
as
I
you
have
have
the
a.
whole,
Sorry, yeah.
I was sad. I have the whole rest of the week kind of planned out of like, hey, a couple hours in the morning, work on my music. Then in the afternoon, exercise and work on this. And so
No,
I
that's
got all the
wicked.
time in the world, all that to say.
The routine is a big deal. It reminds me of a section of, I can't remember if it was The War of Art. It was a Stephen Pressfield book, or he's a writer, and he has a section in that called Going Pro, which
Mhm.
means essentially what you said. If you're a writer and nobody's making you get up and write,
Yeah,
which
do it.
oftentimes is the case, Go pro. What would you do if this was an office job? You know, if this was an office job, you'd get up and you'd go there because you have to. Well, you're a professional writer, right? So
Right.
get up and do that.
Right.
And
100%.
for the time period you think you should do that, you know, and you're gonna feel better. Get dressed. Don't be in your underwear, you know. And people talk about writing in their underwear.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Unless
whatever.
you have to.
Unless you have to. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a strong believer in that. Anytime I've ever, anytime I have time off, vacation, it's almost as if I look at it as, okay, finally, I get to do like my real job for 2 weeks now. I could get up, do my music, make my coffee, get in the routine. I'm a big routine person just generally in life. So it really, it leans itself very well to making music or just doing whatever it is that I do artistically, is to have a routine and just plan it all out.
That reminds me. There's no good reason why it should, but it reminds me of the Wes Anderson movie called Moonrise Kingdom. Edward Norton plays a scoutmaster where one of his scouts is missing at one point, right? And he's rounding them up, and he's got like this really tight run camp where they're all doing all this stuff. It's tight run, but it's also like the 60s, so they're doing lots of dangerous stuff. Not the point. One of the kids asks him, what's your real job? And he says, I'm a math teacher. And then he leaves the scene to go do something and comes back and says, I revised that. This is my real job. I'm a math teacher on the side. And then gets back to it, because he loves doing the scouts thing, So
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
just kind of thought of that.
I totally relate to that. Totally relate to that.
So I'll say this. We got one, I think it's the only song we didn't talk about is No Diamond Rings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I do have a line in this that I'm like, what is this line? And I think it makes sense we waited to the end because
if I remember
10 miles east of Malibu is where I found you in a body bag. God knows I should have drowned you. What's going on here?
I mean, that's just a personal situation, but essentially that's just talking about a dramatic relationship thing that I was in that, metaphorically was saying I should have let that go before it became trouble, which is funny. The rest of that song is pretty like lighthearted and funny. It's the only I think I just put it in for dramatic effect at the time. But yeah, nobody's in a body bag anywhere or should be in anything like that. But
fair.
It just fit the vibe of that. And I guess it's also part of the fact I'm saying no diamond rings, as in like, am I ever going to get a relationship that works? Is anything going to ever happen? So it's kind of referencing something in the past that didn't work. And then brings us full circle to, I guess, until the queen shows up, like there's no diamond rings here.
Got it. And so, you have that. Is Are You My Savage Queen?
And those are all, there's references in there. Again, I'm gonna get myself in trouble, but again, there's a lot of
try not to get yourself in trouble.
No, I'm not getting in trouble, but it just a lot of those are references to people that I've on Instagram or beautiful women that I've like Instagram accounts. I'm like calling some of those out. Those are just like Savage Queen or Vicky Page. These are just people that I've seen over my life on Instagram where I'm just kind of joking. Like, unless this person calls me out, I'm swiping right on this thing,
Got it. That's cool though. Yeah, no, I got the impression this is a kind of a fun song too anyway, like I know. But this line got me because one, you've got a location 10 miles east of Malibu, which is a nice place, by the way. But yeah, that spot where I found you, I think the body bag thing, it sounds like you're just really talking about like this relationship was kind of dead on arrival and maybe you should have seen that, I guess, and let it go. And it's not about murders. So that's cool.
yeah, exactly. And I think there's something too with that line. I think initially I had something saying west of Malibu, but I was like, that's in the ocean. I was like, I gotta change that. I gotta change.
Now we're telling them where the body actually is.
Yeah, exactly. So
we dropped it off in the ocean. No, I get it. It's just a bad relationship. Well, there's a lot of relationship stuff in here. Obviously, that relationship and that location, LA, was a big deal for you.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons it was. And it's funny when you say that. Well, not say that, but when we get over, now that I'm looking at it through a different perspective. You know, I've moved on, things have changed. You get over certain things. Um, like I'm having a really hard time right now with LAX in particular because I have to make videos for it. I have videos, I have stuff ready, and when I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, like I don't really have that same emotional attachment to it as I did then. So I'm having a bit of a hard time now, like feeling excited to put it out and go. But I just have to remember, like to everybody else, this is new, and to everybody else, they could relate to it how they relate to it. So I have to kind of take myself out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the only one that I'm having a hard time. I'm like pushing it off where I'm like, it should be the next release. Oh, let's do it in a little while.
That's true, right? Because you don't feel those things, and maybe I know there's a line in one of the songs too where you said that was I realize now that it was just me looking at it through a naive mind. I
Yeah.
think you
Well,
mentioned that. Like maybe
yeah,
do you feel that way a little now?
that's in LAX too. No, no, I mean, there was a lot of stuff in that relationship and just being in LA that relationship aside, just I had a whole different life. I had another job. I was traveling to LA for work. So it's like it was a different version of Dax, this
Yeah, totally
get
different.
set kind of life. I had a dream job that I loved. And so all of that stopped with COVID, relationship included. So
Yeah.
it was a bigger blow. But that line was just in particular to the relationship where I was, how could I say, I've had a very loving life. I've never really dealt with crazy trauma and things like that. And in LA and US, I met people and met families where I just different lives where I saw things where I was like, man, I've only seen this in movies, like family fights or things or way people talk to each other. I was like, oh my God, this is so aggressive. I've never witnessed this stuff. So that's kind of that line where I was like, I was looking through these things with these naive, innocent eyes where I was like, to them, it's just normal life. And they're like, why are you stressing out? Why does it scare you? I'm just, I don't know, because I'm innocent Canadian. I've never seen this stuff. It's crazy. You know, so
All
that's where
right.
that line came from. Just kind of not understanding where these people are coming from. So I was just kind of, this is weird, but I just had a naive view of it at the time.
Got it. Got it. All right, man. Well, I'm not going to keep you too much longer because I want you to make more tracks now. I want some more music.
Yeah. Yeah, well that's the plan, right? I'm doing this album. There's 8 songs on this, and I'm gonna release them every 2 weeks, maybe every week, depending on how I feel or how much videos I have ready for it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I want to keep doing that. So I'm trying to release these and at the same time work on new stuff so it could just keep going and just keep releasing stuff as we go. I don't think I'm gonna do albums anymore, like drop a full album. I think I'll just do singles at a time and just keep it going.
That makes sense. Yeah, like that way you can just do what feels good, I guess, and maybe be a little. Yeah, maybe you could. It would actually help you probably avoid some of the being like, oh, this was 2 years ago when I felt like this, and now I don't want to. But
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
say this: if
exactly.
you don't, I have my advice is not really worth anything, but
Oh,
I'll tell you with the LAX video, whatever feels good to you doing that video, do that. It's like what if it feels good, then it is good, and that's what you should do. Because
yeah,
if you're trying to force it to be like, oh, well, I don't feel that way anymore, and now that's the vibe this song has to have in the video, I don't know that's gonna work. You know, you
right.
might not connect with it enough, and it's an opinion. Maybe
No, no,
you already
I
know what you're doing. You probably know what you're doing better than I do, but that's my thoughts.
no, no, I agree, and that's I kind of take that with everything I'm doing is do what feels right and go. It's just I already have stuff done. Like when I started going to LA last year to get my tattoos done and everything, I've filmed all of that. Like I've filmed locations, I filmed stuff. So I basically built a kind of music video slash vlog of LA with LAX, like hitting the scenes where I used to do everything. So it's kind of a, like you said before, just kind of making a new memory out of it. But the video is basically all the places I used to go to.
That's
So when I
awesome.
watch it and I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's a bit tough, but it's probably why, you know,
It's
it's
good.
probably,
Sometimes facing the tough stuff's the way to go. So
yeah,
I'm with it.
exactly. Exactly.
Man, so Truth coming out, the first one you're letting go off of this one. So
Yeah, came out. It's out now. It's up on YouTube right now. It's on Spotify. I'm still, once I get off with you, I gotta do some things, post some stuff, get it going. But
absolutely.
I'm stoked about that one, and I'm really stoked about the stuff that I've the next couple of days. Well, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be releasing short form videos that we filmed up here, and I'm just going to keep that ball rolling.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we'll support you as much as we can. And yeah, all the links will be down below for everybody who wants to see. And that's what we're doing, man. I got to thank you for the conversation.